everyone. Today we are going to be creating a Polish Wycinanki paper evergreen tree cutout. These have been made for over 100 years. Typically they are decorations, so they might be hung in a window or on a door or on the wall. Now, there's two types. The type we're making is the type that is created symmetrically, which means it's the same on both sides. So in order for us to create something that is the same on both sides, our first step is that we're going to need to take a piece of paper and fold it in half. Now, I've chosen a white paper to make my evergreen tree with, and I'm going to put it on a black paper. But you can do any color combination you want. A lot of time the designs are made on a dark paper and put on a light paper. So you could do it on black and put it on white. Or you could do it on red and put it on white. So there's lots of choices. You just want two pieces of paper that are not the same color, and honestly, you want them to be almost opposite colors. So when you get started, you need your two pieces of paper, a glue, it could be a bottle of glue or a glue stick, and then a pencil, a pair of scissors, and if you have one, a hole punch can be really nice. The paper cutouts are very intricate. That means they're very detailed, and that hole punch gives us a second opportunity to make some extra details that we don't necessarily have to use our scissors for. So, like I said before, to make a symmetrical tree that's the same on both sides, we have to begin by folding the paper. And I call this the hot dog style fold because it reminds me of a hot dog bun. But it is very important that we match our corners up. So we want to make sure our corners match. And then once we have that lined up, we want to press it flat. I'm going to crease the fold. And then we need to make sure that we do this the right way. So what that means is when I open the paper up, the crease should be in the middle. So if you draw your tree and you draw it this way, you're fine. But if you draw it on this edge and you cut it out, you're going to have two separate halves of a tree instead of one tree. So make sure you know where your fold is. That's really important because that has to be the middle of the tree. Once you know where your fold is, you're going to create the zigzag line for the edge of the tree. You can make it just using straight lines, or you can make them a little swoopy. That's up to you, but you want them to get a little bit farther out as you go. And then you want to make sure you leave some room at the bottom. Now I'm going to bring mine back in as a zigzag this time. Over here I just did it straight. And then you're going to bring a straight line down for the trunk of the evergreen tree, and then you're going to create this hill. Now this paper is actually not the same size as my other paper, so I want to make sure that my hill ends on the bottom and not on the side, because if it ends on the side, what's going to happen is it's going to end short on this black paper. So I'm going to kind of make it go down like that towards the bottom. Now once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and cut that out. So follow your line as close as you can. If it's not exact, that's okay, because we are going to open it up and the pencil lines will be underneath. But just take your time. If you ever have to do these zigzag cuts, what I like to do is actually cut from tip to tip first, like this, and then I go back in and I snip out the insides. It makes it a little bit easier than having to turn the scissors or turn the paper. That can be really tough. So it helps if you, and sometimes you have to kind of pull them out a little bit, but it helps if you do it that way, and then you have nice clean corners. All right, so there's the bottom, and then I'm going to come up this side, and again, I can kind of come across to the tip here without doing that turn, and then I can go back in and I can snip that out. It's a little bit easier that way. So I'm going to go up and then across. I'll just go ahead and finish cutting this out and then go back and snip those pieces. So up and across, and then up to the tippy top. Now, if you celebrate Christmas, some people like to actually add kind of a star on the end. They want it to look more like a Christmas tree. You can certainly do that. I'm just creating an evergreen tree, so it's not designed for the holidays. All right, so once your tree is cut out, you want to open it up and make sure you did it the right way. All right, so now if I open up my tree, I should see one connected tree, not two halves. If I did two halves, that means I did it on the wrong side. All right, so that's the start of it. Now I'm gonna add all of the special details to it. Now, you can draw the shapes first if you want, so you can use your pencil. I think I'm gonna do a couple of triangles down the middle here towards the top, and then maybe a couple more towards the bottom. You can also kind of cut some really interesting shapes out if you want. I like when they come to a tip because then I can kind of cut in from both sides. If you want to do round shapes, you can certainly do that too. That just means you're going to be turning the paper. So if I decide maybe down here at the tree trunk I want to do a little semicircle, I can do that. If you want to do half of a heart, you can certainly do that as well. Okay, so you want to kind of line those shapes up along the edge. Then you go ahead and cut those. Just make sure you're going slow with the scissors as you close them and turning the paper. You want to be careful. If you go too fast, you might end up ripping the paper. So just be kind of careful and go slow when you close the scissors, especially on those curves. So like I said before, when you come to a point, it's kind of easy because then you just cut down both lines and they meet in the middle. You don't have to do as much paper turning that way, which is nice. And after these are cut out, then I'm going to use my hole punch. So if you don't have a hole punch, this might be the last bit of cutting you do. If you do have a hole punch, it's nice because you can add in even more details, because the Wycinanki are very detailed cuts, a little bit more detailed than we're actually making here. But they don't use scissors all the time. They use like X-Acto knives to cut things as well. So after you've finished cutting these out, you can open it up and check it again. Okay, so now you can kind of see I've got my symmetrical shapes in the middle of the tree. So then I'm going to go back, I'm going to close it one more time, and now for me, I'm going to start to use the hole punch to add in some extra decorations. And you can do these along the fold. Just be careful. You don't want to do it directly on the folded edge. You might start to lose the shape of things. You can also come in between the things that you've cut out. As far as, obviously, this will reach. You could definitely do it along the bottom too if you wanted as well. And you can do it around the outside. So I think I'm going to do it kind of close to the tips of things. Just make sure it's not on the very edge. Now you've got all these extra little pieces. Make sure that when you're done, those end up in the trash. All right, I'm going to dust those off. Okay, so now when I open it up, I have my completed design. So it does help to add the glue with a glue bottle, in my opinion, just because these can be kind of fragile. If all you have is a glue stick, that's okay. It's not a big deal. Just be gentle, because if you're using the glue stick too hard, it could potentially rip the paper. But what I like to do is the dots of glue. So after I open my glue bottle, I add the dots of glue. I try to kind of just mix them in around my design. Mostly along the edges of things, maybe a couple in the middle. That way it holds down each part. Notice I'm not doing very big dots of glue. I'm actually not really squeezing on the bottle. I'm just tapping it gently against the paper, and the glue's coming out all on its own. If I get big dots of glue, they're going to end up, when I press this down, kind of going out the edges. So I prefer the smaller dots myself. And then when I lay this down, I like to start at the bottom and get my bottom of the tree lined up first. And then once I've lined up the bottom of the tree against the bottom edge of the paper, then I set the rest of the tree down. And then I press it flat, and if I see any glue kind of pop out, I usually just kind of wipe it away with my finger. And there you have it. And that's how you create your tree using cut paper. All right, I hope you have fun.